Just we're talking to the mayor and board of commissioners of the city of Sarasota. Sonia, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Livingood,
Here.
Commissioner Miser, Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner Martin, Commissioner Scott.
Right, we do have one person registered for public comment, and that is Corbin Thomas. Is that right? Is that right? Yes. Okay, Corbin, what would you like to? Thank you. So instead of very deeply and over and focus out, so even the front of the yes, sir.
Do you remember how many runners there were last year, do you know?
That's great. And you know, the RNA did they were they 400 equals. I think we gave out 1100. So I mean, there's a big difference between people's time and people didn't. These now people leave at the same time. Next year, they were brand new with the whole running. That's going to be a lot of the white felt a little sadder. You don't know people seeing that follow up.
Do you guys team with any club as far as promotion or anything?
You know, my final before is the mention or something.
You know that people are businesses that
Yeah, it's conflict, you know, it's really different. We wanted, years ago, this is sitting in the board, in fall, particularly getting on the spring or the following fall. So we were, the deal, this one is, and we really agree to see it. As long as there's a new, would love to see it grow and, we really want it to be not just a family, not like, we want to see community, I think part we are an organization for kids, and you know, we're not, we want to be there for the community more than that. We want so you guys will not have any, uh, issues with any of them. So, yeah, I hope that since we have Mike Townsend move around it, and at least yeah, as this deal with the same room. I think that's the other reason is to get the direction of it.
um kind of along that same line, do you have anyone like with the uh that would help with the planning and organization?
That's what I'm getting for one guy to make sure it's honestly,
Yeah.
I'm making the students and they fall for date spring, and then that's really big for longer races. Summer, and we the mental release for very going to the last. This is what we would consider. And the sequel, and then we think that the page being really would, if that goes well, then we would expand that. It really is that we would rely on the two. But family when the months would do, you can get people from all over throughout. Last week, there is, really to make over the uncles, we could do. If it was, but we could do it. Really, sure.
Um, as far as the rank, what's the typical rank?
So it's last year, and it's really the pavilion went down, next to Walgreens, and they came right back. And also, I think they've been alternative from the past that most of my friends, the history of young life running on, spark records is not available on.
I was gonna say typically would have a route mapped out.
Really, like you said, you just go down to the red light, Walgreens, comes back, and goes down to the big ones for all, and it ends up at the.
Okay, so it's all contained on 11.
Yeah, we
Oh, okay.
we did times we did, we went up down Lays Avenue and stuff like that. We run into small areas, that's the best.
We went to Mill Creek, slapped up.
Yes.
I don't know.
Where we don't like those words, and Never gets many people in diagnosed spoilers. So that's why we're still going to work, but
Yeah, that's what I was just making sure that as far as the route for the runners as well as the city had been tested and tried.
with now it's the easy like
It
that's actually
is well,
Got a new agenda for next board meeting.
I think
it's not for-
I didn't leave.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, and let's start this discussion. We have just been going to CRS here to review the housing and community supplement. And Justin, can you give us a quick overview and the family maintenance for the police and fire department? Personnel.
All right. So the Clean City benefits was voted on by the state legislature in spring of 2024. It became effective in January of 2025 for local government that choose to benefit. We began working with local governments to run actuarial studies, and so I've had several um, discussions with the city of Sweetwater, and we ran an actuarial study that came back in December of 2025. And so, especially with the Homeland Security benefits, what it is, and then what it costs. What it is an increased benefit for police officers. So, police officers, firefighters, and I don't actually have any corrections officers who wouldn't apply for that too. But it essentially gives an additional benefit, which is for their base TCRS benefit. For those who qualify. And the qualifications essentially would be you have to have 20 years of service in TCRS in a public safety movie. Okay. And so, the calculation for the benefit essentially would be the years that you have in a eligible position with an eligible employer that's adopted this plan provision. And you would multiply those years by 0.375%, and then multiply that by their average family salary. And that would give them an additional benefit the time period between when they turn age 60 and they reach full Social Security retirement age. For most people, it's going to be 67. You may have a few that might fall on that 66 and 10 months or something. But for most people, it's going to be at age 67. So it would give them an increased benefit from the time that they retire. That would, as long as it's 60 or out, through age, full Social Security retirement. That's essentially, and that's what the benefit would be. Looking for any questions about how that works before we go to costs? And then the fees that are associated, we ran the study, a third party actuary ran the study, and came back with those again in December. And so there's three different ways that you can pay for this. And so it's essentially there would be a lump sum amount that would be just shy of $250,000. It's $249,987. And so that basically gets you through that. That's kind of what would get you caught up because we've not been funding this plan all along the way. It's going to provide a benefit. And so they'll get you caught up, and then you would have an increase in your normal cost of 0.39%. So whatever your um, rate is for the year, your TCRS rate fluctuates every year. Currently, it's 3.49%. So you would have an additional 0.39% on top of that for your business damage as a part of that moving forward. Um, again, so you have a lump sum cost of a little under $250,000, and then that increase of 0.39%. That's the lump sum method if you wanted to go that route. There's also two options for amortizing that over a time period. There's a 1 year amortization that would increase your rate essentially 11.39% for that 1 year on the public safety officers. Um, and then it would go back down. You still have an increase to your normal cost. It's going to be around 0.39%. Continue on. And then the 10-year amortization, if you did that route, it's an increase of 1.4%. on top of whatever your current rate is for the. No, it's a lot of numbers to look at and everything, so that's a question that you'll have about that. I think when we come up, we had a set number that we were gonna pay.
That's the sum that Justin went over, which is the $249,000. Each year you increase police and fire payroll only, just their PCRS rate 5.3%. And like Justin has alluded to, the PCRS rate gets reevaluated every year. So if this increased or decreased in total overall liability, that can affect actuarial rates. And obviously, this study is done by professionals. It can be a good guesstimate. Yeah, may not be the lump sum. The lump sum is solid number, but the estimate will change along with our TCRS rate. If something
You know,
historically have not had much changes involved with TCRS. So
we're talking small things like this maybe something.
and Justin, you and I kind of talked a little bit about steps going forward if we decide to move. But
Resolution process, resolution like this, this plan for the new TCRS plan. We provide that resolution, so basically all you would have to say is, you know, you want to move forward with this, we would prepare the resolution and then we would just sign and date it. As far as I know, the numbers that you see here essentially are given through the end of the fiscal year. So you have a few more months if you wanted to vote on it. And we can get that turned around as far as a resolution to you pretty quickly, usually within a couple of days, they'll have that ready for us. So just if that's something you want to do, let me know and we'll provide that resolution and you just have to vote on it and we'll get it added to your plan provisions.
And Justin, would we be the first community to do that?
So I don't know of any others right now that in East Tennessee at least that have adopted. Now that's not to say there's not a lot of interest. I mean, there's a lot of interest in it. But it's gonna have again with this timeline that January 1st, 2025 was the first that was even available. And then an expiration has to be around. So there's usually takes up to 90 days. So we're kind of in that we're still either coming back and we're considering it right now. It's kind of where we are. Nobody else necessarily has put this in place and it's further than West Tennessee. So not saying I think there will be more will come in over time. It's just still fairly new.
and just kind of give a little context, there are 2 total provisions with TCRS that you can do for public safety. The other 2 provisions have a mandatory requirement attached, mandatory retirement age attached to it. So that employee, whether they were ready to retire or not, whether they were the healthiest person on the force or not, they would be required to retire at age 60. We really steered away from that. After discussing with the departments and Justin and commissioners, and we pushed away from those 2. So this is the one remaining option. It is newer, but there are several other communities that have adopted the other provisions. But this one is kind of a response to people pushing back against the mandatory retirement, but they didn't want to.
It's not alternative. If you want, has benefit. So like the mandatory retirement, I think this is a nice place to land for that. And different communities are different. I've been to places where the other one's called the Public Safety Bridge Plan. And some places really love the mandatory retirement. Everybody's on board and it's fine. And then some places do not like the mandatory retirement. So that at all. And so it just depends on the makeup of your employees, and if that's what they're telling you, then you know that they don't want that. They don't think this is a good alternative to that. If you want to provide this benefit. So.
And then the only other thing I would say is we have worked really hard to pay down our unfunded liability for retirement, and the utility board has too. So, I mean, if y'all really wanted to talk about it, I would say that 1-year amortization would be okay, or the lump sum would be okay, but I would really not want to amortize this over pay. I don't want to push it that far down the road. So if we decide to do it, I think we need to do one of those first 2 options. And again, we're not voting on this tonight. I don't have any agenda to vote, but if we have any questions for Justin, now's the time to ask him. We have pretty much police and fire both sat in on multiple meetings with Justin. Thank you for being so accommodating. Justin's college roommate was from Sweetwater, so he has a good time. But things that we talked about were like, if someone moved in pumps and then transferred in fire and then transferred to pumps, it's only the public service years in a public safety department that counts towards the 20 years. So they can go work somewhere else, but the only time it counts for them is when they're in public safety. Likewise, if they transfer from another agency that's not a TCRS agency, they're not going to get credit on our plan if they weren't also enrolled in it already in TCRS from whatever agency they're transferring from. So
It's a key component. They have to have 20 years in TCRS and public safety rule. So let's say, for instance, they work at the next city over 10 years, does not have had a duty benefit as a police officer, and then they come here and work 10 years as a police officer. They have 20 years total, they would qualify for it, but their benefit calculation is only going to be based off those 10 years here, because you all have paid for it and they don't sit in private, right? So the benefit's only enhanced on those 10 years, based off those 10 years. So
But they have to have 20.
you have to have 20 in the public safety role that's in PCRF. Yeah, so likewise, if they came here from Georgia, right, a police officer in Georgia, that time would not count towards that 20 years. So
So if we paid that lump sum and we've got an officer that has 20 years in, does that catch him up, so to speak, to the 20 years?
yeah, if you all passed it and he were to retire, you know, he's going to get the benefit if he meets the age provide.
Benefit.
He's going to get his base benefit in TCRS just like he would retiring legally, and then this is basically on top of that.
When he gets to 60, he's
Mhm.
only getting in at 60.
Yeah, so if you're paying he gets his normal benefit. Let's say you're making working 30 years, you retire, you get your base benefit at 55. This additional hazardous duty benefit will not roll until age 60.
Gotcha.
And it rolls on. Say if your postal service retirement age is 67, it rolls back off. Benefits.
Steve, you guys have anything? Any questions?
Pretty much answered, but we know, let's say, that was several times, and it's like, Ford said, we talked to all our employees, and us being a smaller agency, it's kind of hard to do the age group, you know, the mandatory retirement. A larger agency might be able to do that, but I think this was good for our employees and all.
Any other questions for Mr. Bond?
Thank you.
Jim? Justin, thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
time.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
thank you, Dustin.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Jessica has her monthly update.
Well, can I ask a question about that? So can we go ahead and if everybody, is there like further discussion that we need to have about that, or can we go ahead and put that on the agenda?
We don't have the resolution, so we can ask TCRS to send us a model resolution.
So is everybody good with getting a resolution? Or can we move forward with that, I guess, the resolution to ask for a resolution? Is that unofficial? Yes. Yes, I mean, just, I mean, what do we need to do to get a resolution? What else?
We do need to make a request that I assume I just send an email in and say we need the resolution. But do y'all feel prepared to vote for this in the April meeting? Do you want to add it that quickly? Because it would be an extra month for every fifth weekend, and so we could get it on the April agenda if we wanted to. Or would you rather talk about the budget workshop and the workshop, put it on the May, and seeing Jim nod his head? So discuss it again in the, so Judson, we will go ahead and send that request to ask you to finish the resolution. That way we have it and are ready. If you aren't sure yet, we can wait and ask for the resolution after we discuss it again. But if you think we're gonna do the lump sum, then we'll just have them drafted as a lump sum. You'd like the lump sum, please. Ta-da. Thank you, Justin. I know you don't earn commission off us, but buddy, if you did, you earned it this year. I'll send an email to your boss.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna hop into the city administrator update, the community center project. Sam can kind of fill us in a little bit more on this, but basically we decided last meeting we would try and get some more information together. Sam was trying to line up bidding the CDBG project in the Parks complex with the community center project, because we thought we could get a better bid if we had contractors bidding on both at the same time. CDBG has told us it's gonna be at least another 6 weeks before they can give us the very good bid. So we decided we don't want to keep up the community center project anymore when it has a grant deadline of October 31st for that one room that we discussed in the last workshop. So Sam's people are going ahead and preparing the bid specs for the CCF part of it, the community center project, of which we'd have to finish that one wing before October 31st. When the bids come in, we can then look at financing options or how much are we willing to bite off if we're going to pull the plug on it now. So that's kind of what I know about that. If you have any questions, we can answer those. But at this point, we don't really know anything until we get a price on things anyway.
So here's on our side of things, we have sent the information out to mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire protection, and structural engineers based on the 2021 state update. We've already got structural back as far as revised drawings. We're supposed to get MEP back tomorrow. So getting those back tomorrow, what we would shoot for is actually a release for bid April the 6th with a bid opening April the 30th, and that would get bids in hand by the end of next month. And then we would have a board meeting that following Monday with real numbers to kind of work on. I think the last time we were here, we talked about at least moving forward with the bid to get real numbers. Is that still the consensus?
Is that a realistic time though, Sam? You mean to start construction? You mean through the bid process and finishing the
So-
construction? October?
After talking with the connectivity grant folks, we've really got until December the 31st. So it's hopeful to get those two additional months, which gives them about eight months, give or take. But once again, in releasing the bid, we'll have it in the bid specs that this is a priority. So they'll know going in as they're bidding the job, how to set it up. This is too far. This the building part of it complete turnkey before we spend the grant money. Just a thing like when they see we're building it, I think it has to be in the grant.
It is scroll down in phases. So as the okay, and then seek reimbursement from the state, and then let us go on $667,000. Like if we don't get the project completed by December 31st, they can ask us to repay what they paid us. So that's the fear. We don't want to pull the trigger and start this unless we're certain that we're going forward. And really, once we have bid numbers, hopefully we can make a good
And
decision.
what I'm simply stating is in releasing of the bid, we will have that parameter that this portion would have to be completed by this date. So obviously they would set up, their construction schedule and their subs knowing that going in. So let's just say we get in this and we get kickback or pushback, we're gonna know before we award award the bid to a contractor. Sorry, on May the 4th. So I think by that time it's a go or no go.
This bid's on the first things that we talked about last time.
Want to get bid numbers on the first one.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to break down what the first phase will be. So if we decide we want to only go forward with the first phase and only commitment now in the first phase, we can do this.
And phase one would make it habitable, I guess.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Or
Private and occupied. But As far as the bid specifications, yes, they can be set up in that manner. That if we built just that wing, you could go over there and use it and have restroom facilities. That's gonna be the kicker.
Any other questions on the community center? So the next thing is Norfolk Southern. I sometimes get very irritated with people on behalf of the city, and this is one of those times. Norfolk Southern sent us a new lease agreement. There's a new real estate person over our section. It was the first time I talked to him. They want to increase. Right now, we pay $12,500 a year to lease the marketplace. This started in 2017 at 9,500. It's increased a little bit each year with the CPI index that's built into the lease. And so last year we cut it to 12,500. We want to increase that rent to $42,500 a year. So I maybe should have taken a deeper breath and waited a little bit before coming back. I can't couple our rents, just unexpected. And the answer I got back was you should make a reasonable payment. So I'm reading into that as this guy's jobs are trying to do everything if he can. If we reach back with a reasonable payment, their goal as the railroad is to, I think, is to offset the property taxes they're paying in the city. I think that's what they're trying to do. Is every place they have real estate is trying to offset with those property taxes, and also maybe just to make stuff right. I feel like I can make a very data supported argument for 20,000 a year. And you all may think that's too much, and we don't even go that route. But the reason I'm saying that is because the other lot of similar size directly across the street, that is what with a building on it, ours does not have a full size building on it, is 2,200 a month in rent. So that's kind of where I came up with that figure. I do think if we make an offer to them, they will not reevaluate it again for a few years. They'll still have a CPI increase on it. So if gas is high, if whatever's high, they'll still add more on top of that. I feel like I can make an argument for 20,000 because of other local rents that we have for the same similar size space in a similar. Maybe we decide that's too much. We don't want to do the marketplace lease anymore. They will not sell it. That's a good question though, but they will not sell it. And just for anybody who doesn't remember what it was before, it used to be in downtown, and we got the lease because we were trying to be more protective of downtown and the entrance there so that it looked better. We have gotten multiple grants on that property to be able to add the pavilion, the restrooms, all of that was provided by the Department of Agriculture. We did also do it because it's a temporary building that would fit on skids or a trailer, whatever it needs to fit on. To where if we vacate that property and then release it, we can pick up that bathroom building and we can move it to the dump and then bathroom right there. The asphalt related to the and the people talk about asphalt, but not something we do. So something to think about. If you want me to make a counter offer, if you want to see more data on that, if you want to low down less than that, I'm fine offering back. I definitely do not want to say, hey, we'll take a picture. I would like, I think it's important and it's an important enough property. And you make about between $4,000 and $5,000 a year off, leasing it out for food trucks and stuff like that. So we never been able to based on this. We do absolutely need to look at this as this is a, something that we're doing. It's a community asset. Yeah, we do have a game right now with agriculture, or sorry, with the 250th celebration to try and pay for a farmer's market every month, April through November. So, we do have plans to kind of continue using it, and I need to get a little bit of feedback from you all about which is saying forget it. I think the lease goes through. The current lease goes through November. I don't know that he'll give us that much time because he's put on this for first, which obviously we aren't meeting that. I told him our next meeting that we would discuss it would be this meeting. So, we did also amend the provisions of the lease because he put a description of what we actually do down there. So that was important. You did notice somewhere in the lease, it says something about you're not allowed to have junk vehicles sitting down there. But I also still think that it's worth paying something, amount to be determined by you all, to protect the and to uh, have some control of things that go with it. But
But just out of curiosity, obviously we pay 12,000 down there.
Mhm.
Now, you said what we get back is 5.
somewhere around there.
So, so we're paying $7,000 a year right now to keep it the way it is. When you mentioned the 20,000, was that just that's the going rate of rental, and it shouldn't be any more than 20,000? Is that
Rates in downtown for properties of similar size. And made it a little bit less than that because the properties of similar size had buildings, like bigger buildings than what we do. So
I mean, I don't remember what it used to be, and I remember the trouble that we had month after month after month. But my aggravation is obviously probably everybody else's aggravation. New folks don't need that. I mean,
well, that's why I thought I was very nice. I went through everything that we've spent on the property in the last 5 years. I said, you've done more than any previous tenant you've ever had. You're not going to find another tenant who increases the value of your property like we do. And I may have mentioned a couple other things, to Robert lately and how they should be giving us something at this point, but his reaction was simply give me a time off. So we're not even going with 15 and let him reject it. You know what I mean? Like we can go back and forth if you talk to
that's how much time we had.
not at all when I said March 23rd was the next meeting, and that was a month ago. So I mean, if you want to figure it out a little bit, I think they probably can. They're not watching our YouTube video.
Is it thing about time?
This one starts March 1st, 2026. So, you know, when we give him a countermeasure, if he ends up accepting it, I'm assuming that we get that, time date paid. The other reason right now is I think November. I think it runs November to November.
Is it on the wall?
It is anyway. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's a 3-year contract and the CPI can adjust every year. When the CPI has done the last few years, it's gone like 11.5 to 12.5. So it's slowly going up a little bit every year. I do think that if we adjust this, it'll be maybe 5 years before they come back and do this again. They're gonna keep doing this. They have the control over it because they own the property. So that is true.
$7,000 and 80 lifetime. So you can forget some.
42,000?
Property in downtown, no matter how well it is, it's 22,000. There's not a property in downtown. Yeah, and I guess the other thing, you would find another tenant. Yeah. So, if you all want to give me any kind of indication about that, we can.
Once again, it's important. I'm one vote, one voice. I mean, it's very important to our data to keep it in minutes. I just don't know what our amount is at this point.
So 2,000 a month rent would be $24,000 a year. So it's a little less than 2,000.
We'll get a grant from them every year.
It's not like that we have no control. We just have to they want to, we just have to say okay and go this way.
That
That's it. That's it. So I do think that it's equally accountable. I'm thinking we're going to agree to 42. So. Yeah, but they're still going to increase it with CPI every year. He said they do a reevaluation. They're supposed to do one every 5 years. And it's been since 2017 since they did one. So we did get 9 years of the same lease. Yeah.
So if we did say, Jessica, you can go up to $20,000, would that need to be a motion, in a form of a motion for next, week's?
If you want to give me an indication that, yeah, you want me to pursue this, I'll do something. And then we would have to send us a new lease, and you all would have to vote to execute that new lease.
Still pretty, um, I-
Sorry, Lou, but
but you.
that's.
And so I would go in with one if they're not gonna accept, and then go from there.
I can reply back to him and say, my city board asked that I submit a county record of $15,000 a year plus the CPI increase. And that was the thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask this one more time. Again, they don't even have to go find a new tenant. The last tenant was 2 years behind on their lease payment, so they so we're a great tenant. Like, we on time, that's what I would do on that. Thank you. I was talking a little bit about that, so that was discussed. Parking lot. So David, you may want to speak up on this one too. The parking lot that we purchased last year that Street and Miller Street. So it's down behind Katana, the Japanese restaurant, and Art Studio and Noble Curiosities. Also kind of behind Room. And David's been doing some articles when I was going by and seen that lately, but it looks much better. He's done a great job. You've done it very minimally, just using gravel and his equipment and his guys in force. We had kind of talked about paving the parking lot. Before I get too far into the capital plan and some of those other things, I feel like what he's done with it is really good. We've come to a question. On the back side of the parking lot on East Street, side of the Street, in my mind, we were going to put like a landscaping island in there and maybe plant some trees. Eddie Thompson crushed my hopes and dreams about the trees because of the power lines. So, and then he crushed my hopes and dreams about the bushes. And we're going to plant the same bushes as a hedge down from there as we have in downtown. And it was going to be about $4,000 for those bushes to go across that one route of the road. So I said to David, I said, if we can spend $4,000 on bushes, if we want some greenery down there, that's probably the path to go. But I asked David, how much will it cost for the sidewalk on that section? So, and that does mean that we have a sidewalk on both sides of the road there, but I also know people park and go to funerals there and walk, in that area a lot. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to have another pedestrian amenity there. David thought that price could be $3,000. So it's actually cheaper to put a sidewalk in there than it is to put down through there. So this decision, I kind of want to do this but we can ask the Main Street Board if you want the Main Street Board to decide, but it's going to be fun people doing the road business. So you all can feel one way or the other. We do have this in the existing budget now in sidewalks in the state department. And same thing for landscaping. We can take that in the bank.
Some, any kind of landscaping in that or anything greenery?
If we put the sidewalk in there, it'll be a concrete jungle. That's what I mean by Eddie pushing my dream.
Yeah, he's a dream crusher, isn't he? Okay.
What's the base down there for the sidewalk or greenery or whatever it's gonna go? Is it just hard pan level? Yeah. Well, you're gonna be replacing that $4,000 worth of bushes about every 3 years.
I don't know what dream crushers. Some kind of cancer, but again, we're manually watering those every single day. It's still manually watering. So, are y'all going to be severely disappointed if we don't landscape that and we only put the sidewalk?
It's gonna kill them.
Everybody okay with that? David, sounds like you got to go ahead to finish that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more about it. We'll take something out of it. Parkland designation. Commissioner Richardson mentioned John Cleveland had us took some property from the county that had been deeded over to the county during a tax sale. It's no sale with the tax sale for right taxes. It's property that goes in behind the businesses Max Video and Woods Mobile Homes has that extra lot where they store trailers right on Highway 11. So it's 5 lots. We got 4 lots, but somehow we have 5 now. They multiply. So we have 5 lots in our name as a city, and I think I should have marked that maybe. So these 5 lots, we had talked when we originally got them about possibly designating them as parkland. Someone mentioned that like kids used to go fishing back there. And there's people fishing right there by the creek. You do have that bridge project coming with TDOT, so it would be a good time for us to consider what use we want for that property. I'm not saying if we ever applied for an LPRF grant back there, like to build something like Parks and Rec related, maybe just picnic tables or something. We would have to do an NLU on the deed, which is a notice of limitation of use, and that has to specifically restrict it to parkland forever. But until we get to that point where we're paying the price of rates for it, it's okay for us to dedicate it as parkland. And I mean, as Eddie has time, maybe he can clean, Eddie Thompson has time when he's not fishing my dreams, he could start like kind of cleaning it up back there. Eddie Byron and Kevin Watson and I walked that last, uh, 2 weeks ago just to see exactly where our property was and where there's easements coming in. There is direct access from Main Street. So Commissioner Richardson, if you want to talk any about that.
I talked about it. He actually went back there. A lot of it is not usable as far as making a sit down, stroll around sidewalk thing or something like that. But I think there is part of it, and Eddie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's part of it that we can get in there and clear and having access maybe to put a fishing dock or something like that, just for public use or something like that. So I mean, if that's something that the board wants to consider, we would be willing to do that.
I think that, I mean,
It'd be a really nice addition.
I don't know if you can tell, but this area right here is actually an unopened public street. And then this area right here is also an unopened public street. So you do have multiple access points where you can put parking or picnic areas or something like that. Also in our meeting Friday with TDOT, this area right here, which is currently Dr. Ray's office, the old office there, it's like an employment office or something too. TDOT has bought that for the bridge project. Once they're done with the bridge project, the first person they'll offer it to is the adjacent property owners in the city. So,
Went away and I can't see.
oh, well. Okay. So that property where that building sits now, TDOT will actually look at offering it to us anyway, and that could be a place for parking or, things like that in the future.
You walk right above it.
That's exactly what Brandon mentioned. So the first one is Sweetwater Hospital, the next one is Marty Scout. And then the little corner one back towards the intersection is the Smart family, Miranda Smart, I think.
That's the one kind of right in front of Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe since we're starting that capital improvement plan type of activity now, this is a good time to talk about if we have any plans for the property, we're gonna do with it. Yep. Now, we did notice when we walked back there, which is like too far and everything right there, there's familiar back in there too. If we cleared out some of that underbrush and stuff, I think probably it might help with some of the activity.
I mean, that's what the board would approve, and if David gets time, he could definitely get in there, work his magic.
So I'll put that in the April 6th agenda for us to officially designate it as parkland. We're not gonna put anything in the deed yet, but that way we know that this is attention with it. The next thing, my screen now. It's scheduled fees. So we are getting an adjustment on the garbage rate in April. It's going up a little bit again. The two things that are changing on the two things that are highlighted on the schedule of fees is the memorial tree board policy, which we approved in the last meeting. That takes it to $300 per tree, including the installation. That has to actually be adopted into the schedule of fees. While I'm talking about that, I'm just mentioning, I've been saying for 2 years that we probably need to do something with the garbage fee. We can wait and talk about this during the budget time if you want to, but we don't have to. The schedule of fees can be adopted at any time. Since that rate adjusts in April, it might be a good time for us to kind of start talking about that. We can talk about it in the April talk with the budget discussion. Just for historical purposes, when we first initiated the garbage fee, it was 2011 and we started at $7.50 per household. And then in 2017, we moved it to $11 and that's where it stayed since then. the garbage fee for pickup is now more than $11 per household by, I don't know, 25 cents or something. And we get another adjustment this next month. So we're going in the hole in the garbage and the sanitation fund. That is considered an enterprise fund, which means it's supposed to be fee based. So the fee is supposed to cover what the thing is. We are allowed to transfer money from general fund to the enterprise fund, which we started doing a couple years ago. Because we used to take landfill service out of that sanitation fund also. So now that has been taken back out of street department again. It's about $45,000 a year since David put the gates up and kept that budget at 30,000 1 year. If you're going to increase the garbage fee, I think you should increase it to $14 a month. That would actually cover the garbage fee that's assessed plus the landfill expense. It's not covering the employee salaries that are doing curbside pickup for brush and demolition and things like that. Right, that would be a more accurate reflection. Plus, give us a little bit of fund balance. The state asks us to keep at least 10% fund balance in the enterprise funds. They did pass our budget this year, even though I showed it negative, and they still went ahead and approved it. So I don't know how they're going to hold to that. But their recommendation is you keep 10% fund balance. If you increase it to $14 a month, that would actually cover what our cost for garbage is for paying the WCI contract and picking up the curbside demolition, not including the labor cost of it. It's just the demolition fees that we're taking things to the dump, and then the dumpsters come, they come and pick up and unload the dumpsters.
So that fee is just permanent, I'm sorry. It's really
Most cities do utilize it as a pass through. Most cities don't even cash this through. When it increases, they increase their fee that they pass on to everybody. It just increases every year.
You tie it to the rate, is there a way to tie it so that when the rate goes up, it's not something that we're having to sit here and
You can the schedule of fees to say it increases with each rate increase, and I mean, you can do it, automatically adjust to that. It does, as far as I can tell from the law, it does have to actually be stated on the schedule of fees because it's a fee that the city's collecting. So. And you feel important to go in here. You've been eating it for at least 3 years. It's been your
you're trying to like sit here and say, hey, we need more money. It's actually costing.
Yeah.
And I think that if it was tied to the fee, then it would be like, hey, it's like, hey,
And when it increases, you just pass that along. You can reword the schedule of fees, I think, to say that probably. And that's probably what other cities are doing. I can check with some of the other surrounding cities if you want me to. But when it's out there, I mean, so, we can put that on the April 6th agenda, or if you'd rather talk about it during budget time, whatever's best for y'all. Any thoughts?
No brainer.
I'll put it on April 6th. You can always table it if you don't want to go to April 6th.
Soon as we can make it not that's money then.
Right, just an update on the pool project and lifeguards and how that's affiliated. So we are required to give so many days on a contract when we hire a contractor. So that contractor technically has until June 16th or June 19th, I think, to finish the project,
Yes.
somewhere in there. He's anticipating it to be a little bit earlier than that, which is good because we really wanted to try and open the pool May, like, yeah, May 6th,
Yes.
something in there. So that's what this deal is shooting for. They're doing, how often are your updates with the contractor, Sam? How often are those meetings?
Two a month. I think Devin's trying to get another one set up for this coming week.
Okay.
And he's given us a scope of work and some dates
Yes.
that he's trying to hit.
Yeah. We went from the demolition permit to the actual pool lining, so now it's a matter of getting the piping and everything put back in and then we'll get open. Eddie has copies of those plans now, and he's keeping a close eye on them too. So it's temporary. Hopefully, we won't take the full contracted amount and then actually get open end of May. And seeing as how that's the case, we've decided we have to move forward with lifeguard applications, pool manager application, all that stuff. So we've been taking those. We have 3 candidates. So we are probably going to go ahead and tell them that we're planning on hiring them in May. We have set up dates to train the lifeguards and train the pool manager and everything. And they are going to be able to do that training at the Loudon pool. They're going to let us use their pool for the training. That way, if the pool's ready, we don't have to push back our training. We can still get them all certified. We are still going to take applications for another week or two because normally we have between 12 and 16 lifeguards, and we have 10 right now. So we could use a few more lifeguards. But again, I just kind of want to keep it up on what opening this summer. A little fuzzy on what the date's gonna be, but lifeguard applications are on the way. Still taking if anybody knows anybody that could lifeguard. I do need to be able to swim. You would think that goes without saying. But, next topic, the TML bond refunding. So our bond provision, it was originally a $1.2 million bond, paid for the street sweeper, and it refunded debt on fire hall number 322 to a lower interest rate several years ago. I have a provision where every 5 years they can adjust to the treasury rate. So the new rate that's being offered by the same company, not having to make any changes, I think it was 4.99, and I can confirm that for sure. I'm thinking of around 4.99. PML went ahead and quoted issuing, refunding it and doing a different bond, and their rate's 3.99. Right now, we're paying somewhere around 2.89%, so it's going to go up. But I'm going to go up drastically. To us, that makes a difference of about $3,000 a year in the budget. So it's not a huge amount. It would save us money if we would refund and go to 3.99%. We've been until June to decide about this, so we can talk about it when the budget workshop in April. At this point, it would save $5,000 or $6,000, I think, from my rough calculations to go ahead and refund it at the end of the month. This bond is paid off in 2031. Because it's not huge impacts because we're kind of on the tail end of it anyway. We only have 5 more years to pay on this bond. So, but they can adjust that rate. They are proposing to adjust that rate. That is in the provision of the bond. They're allowed to do that. So we can refund it and have a slightly 1% less interest rate. So the fact that we could qualify for the 3.99% rate right now made me very happy. So I was a little worried it's going to be my first night. So that was kind of a not a bad thing. Also, kind of related to that, I got a notice today from Moody's credit rating agency. Y'all know about that Moody fellow. Said the rating evaluator said that they're going to keep the rate the same. They offered to allow us to make comments back, but everything I saw in there looked really good. So I was really happy with how they rated us for that. Double AA3 is what our rating is through Moody's, and it's a different rating through S&P. Through Moody's, it's AA3. The average median population for cities with that bond rating is 22,000 people. So what our bond credit rating is we average cities who have 22,000 people in this credit rating. So I think this says a lot to have liabilities and pay down debt. And, some of the factors we can't control in that credit rating, one of them is the household income of residents. And I've said that every time we've been re-rated, that's one of the factors that drives us down is we have a lower household income for residents. That has gone up, and we'll be sharing more of that information when the retail recruiting company gets done with their evaluation this month. But that number has gone up, and I think that will help us a little bit in the future on things like credit rating. Part of that's just inflation, though. Part of that's just because salaries are going up because everything else is going up. So it's not really an indicator. It's just kind of an increased forward thing. But happy with that Moody's re-rating, and they'll be publishing that in the next 2 weeks, I think. And grant applications. Last week they came to do the cybersecurity grant. We got the $35,000 plus installation generator paid for 100% on a grant that Landon Purdy wrote for us. And that cybersecurity grant, they poured the concrete pad, they did the connections last week. Have they actually installed the generator? I don't think so. I haven't gotten the lesson yet. It's going to be installed in the next couple of weeks. But they got all the prep work done and coordinated with the utilities because it is gas powered and those kind of things. And it'll be right there on that side of the building. We also had a small event. Actually, the last few years, there's been a plan to lean towards more smaller, more targeted events. So we did a once upon a small town reading event in the first weekend in March. We had a 14% increase for that weekend over the same weekend a year prior. So that was quite a bit more traffic in town. And the interesting thing about this is this is the first event we've had that really young females are being showed up to. So that's typically not a demographic that comes a whole lot to downtown. We do have a lot of females, but usually it's middle-aged and older. So to have that we introduced a lot of new people. One of those young females that showed up was our Connected Community Grant coordinator from Morristown, Tennessee. And then we have pop-up shop from one of the bookstores for us, and they came and interested them in the paper. She gave us all of her sales information, and she had an excellent weekend. She did a week and a half's worth of business in those 2 days, on Friday and Saturday. I made no bones with the fact that I'm here to record bookstore. That's one of our backs. It shows up on our gap analysis, and if she's ever ready to do a second location, I'd love for it to be here. But I think that made some good moves there. And people certainly enjoy that event. It definitely brought some traffic into town. We also filed a separate sales tax for a new location in Sweetwater so that we would get 100% of that sales tax instead of it going to Spring Madisonville, which is the right way to go, but not the way most people do. So it was very cool that she did. Just an update on some of the pending legislation. Pretty confident the state of Tennessee is trying to kill both cities. Um, so Senate Bill 2028 and House Bill 2017, which I'll until you're blue in the face. That is the legislation about whether you can extend the city limits. It did pass both the House and the Senate. The House amended it. Franklin introduced an amendment to put a 500-foot safety barrier around schools. So it did pass with that amendment. So the Senate will also have to, go to governor's desk and then it comes off. It's not effective until July 1st. The other piece of legislation that's happening now that TML has been emailing us about, they actually gave me yesterday. Sitting on my back patio, TML called me on a Sunday afternoon and said, "Can you please tell your state senator right now?" So I think this is a property tax, and this goes before the Senate tomorrow. It is still in committee, and TML is doing a push against it. Any city or county that has a property tax rate of above 0.85 cents. Ours is 0.9346. So we also get 93 cents per hundred. Ours is just barely above the exclusion. So this would affect us. They would cap it to where we could do more than a 2% annual growth in property tax revenues or a 6% growth over 3 years. The House law is slightly different. The problem with this is local government's primary way to raise money is property taxes. We have never regulated or impacted before from the state of Tennessee, and now this collective is. When I said to a state senator who has promised to vote against it, is that for a city like us, we try and only have a tax raise every 10 to 12 years. If they cap what we can do, then every time we buy a piece of equipment, every time we are thinking about buying land, every time we're thinking about issuing debt, we're going to have to think, okay, how much would we have to have? We're going to have to do 4 tax rate increases 4 years in a row instead of 1 tax increase and then not having again for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? It really would hamstring us in a long ways. And there is an inflation thing built in for that. There is something for if we're issuing debt. If you want to do it if they pass as a cap, if this passes, the local government would have to approve it by a 2/3 vote of our governing body, and then we'd also have to put it on a referendum and let the voters vote it. So basically, it means local governments would end up having a tax increase every single year instead of going 10 years in a row. And that's what I told Senator Hodges. Well, I just want to do that. I just want to get in a situation where I'm having to increase taxes every year. That's never been the desire of this board. I can't imagine it's ever going to be the desire going forward. So if you have a way to reach out, Senator Hodges is already on board. He's already told me no. I know the mayor reached out to him also. I had a face-to-face conversation with him, and then I also had a phone call yesterday with him, and he's told me both times he's against it. But if you know any other senators that you think you have any influence with, we could probably try and reach out. No, unless the state is just trying to absolutely take away all authority from local government and just run everything themselves.
In addition, there was a nationwide movement to do away with real property taxes, period. And so this is like the first step there.
A state that there's an income tax or there's other methods of taxing or I'm getting tools or there's 50 million other ways to fund projects. That's a whole different ballgame. But in Tennessee, this is a little different. We get money from sales tax, but we have no control over it. We have no control whether it goes up, down, or whatever it's going to do. So property tax is really the only thing that we can regulate as a city outside of fees. So we're getting on that in the Senate. I'm so tired of watching Senate hearings. I mean, this has been the most miserable thing the last few weeks. I have really lost no faith in government. Sorry, guys. It's fine. Eyes have been open. On that I gave a new copy to each one of you all. This does include a few updates since the last time. The one thing I wanted to point out to you is the parking lot. If you look down at there's a highlighted item in the general government. that on April 9th. We had 15,000 in there. Since we voted, I mean, since we decided tonight that we're just gonna let David go ahead and do the sidewalk here in this budget year, we won't need that amount anymore unless somebody wants to do something else to that parking lot, so I remove that. And then the other items, each department head has a copy of the updated one also, so I don't know if y'all want to discuss it with them tonight, or if you, my plan would be, if we're ready, to adopt this in the April meeting. We don't have to, we could wait until the May meeting to adopt it if you wanted to. And that way we've had a budget workshop with people too. So I'll put it on the agenda and you all can tell me if you're ready to vote on it or not. If not, we'll table it to the May meeting. You just have to pass it either before or before we pass the budget. And is there anything else that you all, you can go through it line by line if you want to, or, the year 27 is the one that you're looking at for the coming year too. Everything that's highlighted as 26 is the current year.
On the, in the fire department's at pumper truck. 2030, is that the one we want to order? That's been over under general government. A lot.
It's the same. It's the same type. And the only reason I put it in there like that is because I've not actually set up a separate bank account to put $250,000 a year into. It's just sitting in our funds. So I just wanted to keep a place marker there because you all said you wanted to kind of put back 250,000 a year. But we're not really doing much, but this is kind of a visual if you see. If you think it feels like a duplication, we can remove that. It's really more just kind of a placeholder to show us if we have extra revenue, we're kind of allocating that for the fire department. But in real practical dollars, that money's just in fund balance. I have not put it in a separate bank account or anything like that. Or restricted it to fund balance in any way. It's just in general fund balance. No, it's the same thing. I'm not into it. John White has
And, in the parks and recreation, one on the fields, I know we did a pretty significant increase in what we got into the organization, so that's the biggest sport. I think more for the operations, we take care of maintenance of it.
Well, maintenance, each sport gets $5,000. I mean, that can be everything from sand, and, when we buy paint to paint the and put it on the football field. All of that comes out of field maintenance. When Eddie did the extra irrigation for softball this year, we did have that as another field maintenance. We still put it field maintenance. Mostly that's so I can look back and take it. If we know 5 years from now we had done, and also so we can comparison that we're heavily favoring one sport over the other, that they're all kind of getting the same amount. For next year budget, Eddie has asked for some adjustments in that field maintenance, but they're all less than $5,000. So I did not include them in the capital plans. Capital plans just items 5,000 or more. There's softball. The softball fence was 4,000, and there was 3,000 for the trailer. Four for the trailer, 3 for the fence. 4 for the fence. Baseball concession stand.
Yeah.
Spots. Yeah. So those items are under 5,000, so they're not showing in the capital plan, but you will see them on the temporary budget. And Jen, I'm not sure if I'll answer your question or not, but we don't write a check to those sport organizations anymore. We take care of the field maintenance. Like years ago, we used to write a check to each organization. We didn't. It's like the plans. Say, hey, we have a payment and I need a bunch of field grant. It'd be like, we have $2,000 left in field maintenance, so we can do it for you. And we'll pay it for that.
And three nights for the bank out of $1,000, then she turned around and you're looking on and back on there, we should. But she pretty much didn't use any of the 5,000 she did that money for it, but. So it's kind of working.
Any other questions on the capital improvement plan or anything you guys want to talk about?
Under general building, it's still.
So This is the debt that we pay against the note to the junior high gym. And in our real budget, it's broken out separately. So we've got 3 line items for the schools. One just says education appropriation. One says technology upgrades, because we committed to giving them $25,000 a year for the one project when they started adding a laptop for each student. And then we committed to $40,000 against the junior high gym debt. It's not included in the education appropriation line item because we don't include that in minutes of it. We did need to cut that or do away. We committed to the bond paying $40,000 in debt, but the reason we split that out separately is because it's not included in minutes of effort. We don't use that calculation for minutes of effort. One thing in the police department, there's a little bit more money in vehicles because we'll be purchasing 2 vehicles for 2 new SRO officer, 2 SRO officers at the high school. The school board has agreed to 60-40 split that with us, just like we used to before we got the SRO grant money. So I already shared these numbers with Janet, but it'll still come out of our budget as an expense and then they'll reimburse us as a revenue. So you'll see that when we do the actual budget, but that is why it is replacing vehicles line item is on there. So we're gonna get 2 more used cruisers for the SRO officers, which the school will pay 60%.
How much is 105? Is that 2 vehicles, like normal vehicles, 105? Five. Okay.
And that's usually a 3-year term. Yeah, and we did just pay off the lease for the last set of vehicles, so we can do a new lease, if that's the route you decide to go. Or you could maybe buy out 2. But you gotta think about on police vehicles, you're having to gear them up too, and that costs a pretty penny too, is to put the radios in and the stripes and, everything that I have to have on them. So typically, we will do a lease agreement and we buy it out for $1 at the end of the lease agreement. Just kind of as an overview, the things that have changed, the department heads come talk to me about the, Hanson Rec is asking for a 1-ton dump truck and a trailer. And the 1-ton dump truck is used. So that's part of where their things are coming from. And then the street department, David, help me remember. The backhoe is their big thing. And that's under State Street Aid equipment. It's that top line. And he has gotten a price from the backhoe company. The sales guy's been calling us every week for a month now. And they do hold a state bid on that too. That was the big thing on yours, David, right? And then paving a section of Broad Street between Lenore Street, Fair, Patton. So a section of the West End, and just we occasionally get comments that we don't do enough paving in the West End, or that we only ever pave Anderson Street and Chestnut. Anderson Street and Chestnut are the only 2 roads that the state of Tennessee will let us use STP funding, the Surface Transportation Funding. So just so everybody knows that, we have only paved that road using state funds because that's the only place the state will let us use it for. It has to be classified as at least an even minor collector to be able to use the funding. And that's the only way that qualifies. We did ask for them to go ahead and add Fair Street and the rest of Chestnut to connect Fair Street, the whole way across in the West End, and the state denied that request a couple months ago. They said the traffic counts didn't warrant it and that they couldn't add it as a minor collector. So we tried, but that any paving we do in the West End is going to have to come out of city coffers. There's not going to be an option to use surface transportation funds. David? Anything else on the capital improvement plan?
I was just gonna piggyback off Jim's question because we've been getting calls about permits in that neighborhood. And I know all along the permits have been tied to finished street. So, obviously we can let the residents know that we're looking at a 3-week schedule.
Contract and everything's been signed, right then. Perfect, then, get us on the schedule for the camera. It's good for three.
Rogers Group, Harrison.
This hair.
Okay. Department heads, anything on capital improvement plan that I know we've talked about this 12 times already, but anything? Okay. That's everything for me, Mayor.
Thank you for a very thank you, Jessica. Can't thank you enough. So, agenda review, let's see, on the April agenda, which was in your packets, we have minutes and distributions as always, and we can vote on updating the schedule fees if we're ready for that. And, we will have an ordinance 1061, drafted by Mr. Cleveland. Can you go over that, John? Ordinance 10.
Actually, maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of the last year. Passed ordinances that made reference to general penalty provision. And sometime a couple of months ago, when it came up again, I checked again and thorough search and was unable to find a general penalty provision anywhere in our code for our city court, because I always had jurisdiction to fine up to $50. It just, and that was in the city court's jurisdiction, but there was nothing that said that that was what we were talking about when we were talking about the general penalty provision. And the statutes provide that our general penalty provision that we did not have can provide that every day's violation is a separate violation. And so I've incorporated that into this as well. So it's also provisions in the case law that says that city court is not limited to the $50 if it's not a penalty. And with this, we do this all the time on our dog cases where we charge boarding fees and we charge fees. And so when we do that, it's not penalty that is limited by our $50 Tennessee constitutional provision. And so that's also included in this. It has a $500 limit on that. Well, it's hard for me to imagine we'd need more than $500 per day for that. But, and I can't really say, I don't know where the $500 amount came from, except that that appears in other cities' general penalty provisions. So that's what that's about. It's almost a housekeeping matter, but it does provide some extra authority for the court.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay. And we also have a bill permit from Sweetwater Taps. It is in new ownership, same location. New applicant is asking for an on and off premises permit. So, are there any questions or concerns about this application? It is also in the packets. So this. I'm not thinking an owner finance. Name just over here.
Sorry.
Okay.
Number 2 for the board of answer. I said, so if it's just you, you can.
Even now, that's put an address on it, and it's not their address, when you check in with them, or doing this, doing checks and stuff like that. Yes, do want that off, you get it all, correct?
Yeah, this is not
Yes.
her where
Yes.
she lives. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've still got complete investigation. The address that's got on there is also the previous home.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the address of the property owner. It's also the address of the current fifth license, permit holder. And I couldn't find anything that prohibits her from acquiring this just because she's living with the owner of the property who's the current permit holder. But this is the first time, this is the first time for her that that's not her, and if she's not, he's listed a different resident, that's a.
Was just
that's a
joking.
different matter. Like, I think that
Any questions on this? Okay, so are we ready for a department head updates? John Anderson. John Anderson. You're the first contestant. Bueller.
This is one of the old parts at the front of the fire back out, so. I don't know.
It's right first, yes. I'm going to
Probably the spring break.
Different those.
need to put that on my lap.
They'll have a few grants. One of them would take care of one of these capital things. Did come pretty something that was really going. The third one, maybe, but they are, but maybe. And just with the, I couldn't get the computer to take it, I had to have a call. But I thought. Anyway. There's a little incident over there at the park, or apartment. Animals, our guys know that it's extremely well. No ambulance in town again. But, so there you go, thank you for the, well, we not going to the ambulance, but one is the house. Yeah. So, Go ahead, man, you're up.
I want to commend both of your departments for the thing at Sweetwater High School, the mockery. Yes, everybody was very impressed with the. Now you know we're going to have haters, period. But but it was well received by the community, by the high school students, and so I want to commend you all for getting that, for because I know that took a lot of organization.
The teacher right there, and then station.
Mhm.
Yes, I think
Thank you, Byron.
School out, put that on out front, we had it moved back corner. And, just like, if you don't know me already, kids and educating our kids in our system, that's two of the most important things there is. Like you said, we've heard enough about this House Bill 2017. If you all know the history, I went to John to Nashville, and, we give us right over there, Mark Cochran came back, Representative Cochran came back,
And as I talked to you numerous times about the schools, churches, community gathering places, I think that, well, I know that Dr. Miller was very instrumental in getting, Teachers Association, the law to meet with them. And they agreed to give us an amendment, 500 feet of school property, which the wording of is huge for us instead of from the building. That's a lot of times you get from the building, if you're looking at high school, that'd be all the way back to the practice fields and the baseball fields. You're looking over the ground, of course, that's all the way back to the fields, 500 feet from that, so, that's not what I wanted, but better than nothing. The old thing, one hand, good book, but, we'll work on getting further later, but get the book. We put citizens, police academy, the police department, we got some great, participating in it. It's, going very well. We have coming up, I think it's April the 5th. April the 5th, we've got the high school homecoming parade. And instead of being able to do it at the high school like we normally do, ending up at the high school, this year we have to make an alternate route, and we're gonna go to Eden Park. So it's gonna take out the gas hill big time when it's, get out and go to the Eden Park.
Like a senior parade.
We're gonna go to the school, they're doing election polls, they're doing voting polls. But I can't get into that.
Just May 5th.
May
May 5th.
what is-
I thought you said April 5th.
Somewhere.
Senior parade.
Thank you. Yeah. Looks like I'm on the head, Chris. All day long, I get off of this. Hey, it comes up on the plate. It's about it, and we preach about it, got good for us. We, decided we've had $50,000 in the renovations for bathrooms at the PD for 2 years. We didn't use it last year, we got it rolled over. Because everybody that we got estimates from, they were like $100,000, stuff like that, for bathrooms, because they're gonna make them,
ADA.
and as it turns out, we found out that we were able to go another route, that we're gonna go down there, the ramp up here and everything. I'll tell you, and Richard with the street park, he's been back. And he is fabulous with the bathroom, he's already got done for Vanessa over, and he's gonna start working up on the other, and we're gonna get down hallways, so we didn't touch doing any of it. Well, he made the podium, the big, pretty deadline amazing, it broke that hill week.
I think I'm gonna have to do a second trophy booth maybe next winter because they're all sitting on the floor now. We have so many of them, so.
I'm gonna add something to the mock prep. Afterwards. The negative stuff or the people complaining, we have had that for years. It unfortunately, a little fear, or it takes open pictures, I see what's there for years. We used to do it a little different. With other things, but, now.
Blank.
We single it out, you feel with pride, we have everybody in the law. Yeah, but, unfortunately.
I would say that's just driving by there and seeing that out there, raise my eyebrows. I mean, probably by saying I was like, yeah, my daughter said the exact same thing. She said, "Oh my gosh, I drove by there and saw those vehicles," and I was like, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
You all make a difference, so we appreciate that.
It's a good thing, I like that, we feel, what you guys are. But, yeah, but we appreciate the help. If everybody's buying to it, it's gonna work.
Jonna,
Everything's going well on the planning department. Fourth room, so they talk to Richard. Indeed, you might have been free. Once we have to with
I mean, when are we gonna be meeting on that?
Yeah, they're doing the ICSC conference. Is it in April or May?
I think it's. I don't know what they know over there. Properties, so sit down and buy properties and then there's some people are in people, so retail businesses that would begin. Area. They've already pitched some of the property to some businesses, renewables, so hopefully we'll land. That's the wild thing.
Great.
Meeting with them, hopefully, so hopefully we land some good business there. Bullet Brief just submitted the site plan, haven't made the planning commission yet. Just got the email at the end of last week, so I'll have a week or two to review that and, utility board will review it over the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be on the planning commission agenda. It's basically the final build out, everything that's like. So the current piece of the new right now, I believe they got about 20 undeveloped lots right now.
So would it be to the right of where it's developed now? I mean, kind of behind Mike. Yeah. Hostile. Mhm.
Spending the initial, I don't know, probably about 95 lots. Then, you know, the existing owners that are not built on the other that are currently doing, you know, you're looking at another, you know, 115 homes, maybe in a couple of years.
Does it
Build it out.
count those condos or whatever along he wants to develop on that other side either?
And yeah, throw that. It's
Right.
concept. Yeah. Um, oh, it's promising, you know, it's sure. Well, I would say comfortable with, so I think it's much more benefit of life. Some of the other stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you have an idea, or yes, you may. If somebody builds a new home here, how long does it take the assessor to get it on their tax?
It's a lot like that, like a group of them at a time, like one in Wolf Creek. Call them and say, hey, we had 7 new structures, can you get them picked up partway through? But you know, the tax roll is assessed based on who owns it January 1st. So if they build it in July, it's not gonna go on this year's, it'll go on the following year. So a lot of times you're looking at 18 months before we collect any revenue.
We were in, for the about them, you know, I haven't found them their farm. I hadn't heard anything the last couple of minutes, they have. After permits and all of the thing. That's what really for. They submitted the top, they have been for the. They submitted their building. Plans, they've been reviewed and approved. The, the three actual buildings will go on. If there were upgrading and all that stuff, so that's really where we're at now. Putting in apartments. Really talk about them for a while. The same thing, let's spot on the other side of it. But the road there. We know. Stuff about. What's it called? Wait, spot and maybe. That stop. I just think the. All the guys were having a question. So it's all, and so they got it, what, with the, stuff it does that. With the, this all, and with the, gotta have to make it. But they're not together, stuff.
get, like, things, same thing as 68, the top hill flicker forward, getting closer to the finish line. Here's the day, I guess, so it's transferring from the license, information over currently, at least it's out there involved. On the way in, that's good about them, only good flags and final inspection. Give us the box, see and move. So, some of the,
So,
that, no balls, okay. Stop, starting south. Right now, we're in everybody's,
fields look great. The fields look great.
everybody's.
Yeah. Yep, it is. Right. David Moses. Okay. Look forward to that Oak Street or that Oakland View update when they get started on that. Brandon, what you guys?
Now we're gearing up for, the end of the month, March 31st, and the beginning of April, we'll be doing our report, back to staff of March 31st. So that'll take up a lot of our time, and then April 20th to 25th is National Rifle. For that, like that.
20th or the 25th.
Bring out the some of the
And I talked with Mira today on, yeah.
newspapers book, because I need to go to the street. Anybody remember the wall front of you can go in here. You can know what country. Here. So there was 1981 for that.
The existing library? Ooh,
Ground stop, stable and low.
Okay, on that note, does anyone have anything else? Anyone? All my hearts and minds are clear. Yes, meeting everybody.